everybody. Welcome to another episode of Story Time. Boy, do I have a story for you today. So, one time I was in the hospital getting a treatment for a lung infection, and I had all sorts of tubes in my body going through my veins, going to my heart, and it came the time to change those tubes because they need to be changed every once in a while. Now, when you have those tubes in you, it's really hard to shower. So when you get them out, you have this epic experience where you get to go and have a shower easily without having to deal with any of these tubes or stopping them from getting wet and all this stuff. And so sometimes putting in these different types of IVs, these tubes, sometimes it can really be a painful experience. Usually it's fine, but the odd time it can be this excruciatingly negative and painful experience. And just previous to getting into the hospital for this particular lung infection, I'd had some brutal experiences getting those IVs in. And so when I got them out, I went and was about to go have a shower, and I asked the doc if I could have some type of sedative or muscle relaxant or something so that I could have a painless just experience with them installing those IVs. After a whole lifetime of getting them, your veins get really scarred and kind of resist the administering of the tubes and the needles, and so it becomes more painful over time. So I was just like, oh, forget it. I just want to not feel anything, and so can I have this drug? And so they said sure. So the IV nurse was on their way up to give me this IV, so I thought I'd just quickly hop in the shower, have that epic shower experience free of IVs. And the nurse comes in while I'm having a shower, and he says, hey, I've got the med, you just take it under the bum. And suddenly, I'm in the shower, but I go into cold sweats, and I'm like, what? Under the bum? I don't want to do that. And I'm thinking I'm fighting with myself, can I do this? Should I do it? Am I willing to go through the pain of the IV instead of shoving this thing up my butt? And so I'm having this dialogue with myself in the shower, fighting it, working up the courage, and then fading away, and then working up the courage and fading away. And I thought that I heard him say that it was an Ativan, and so I know that Ativan you take in, you put it in your mouth, you take it orally, and so I was confused, and I thought, under the bum, what the heck? It must be some new thing. And so he left it on the table just outside the shower door, and so finally I'm working up the courage, and I decide, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And realistically, it's not that bad to do, to give something in the nether regions. It's uncomfortable, but it's not it's not painful. It's just kind of weird. I should tell you that I know that because of all the different random things that I've had to do medically over the years. Just to clarify. Anyways, so I open the door, and I run into the nurse who's back in the room. And I just decided to confirm with him how I'm supposed to administer this thing. And so I tell him, I'm awkwardly asking him, what's the best way to get it up there and stuff. And he just starts laughing. And I'm like, what's happening? And I guess through the shower door, I misheard him because the shower was on. He said under the tongue, not under the bum. So this whole time, I had been working up all this anxiety, trying to gain the courage to do this, which I was already embarrassed about in the first place. And it turned out that it was just supposed to be under the tongue because it dissolves under the tongue, which I knew, but I got so worked up that all my common sense left my brain, and I made an absolute fool of myself. And so, reflecting back on that experience, really, I think there's actually a lesson to be learned there. spent so much time worrying and assuming things and getting worked up over something that I knew wasn't actually that bad, but I allowed my mental state to begin to snowball into this anxious state that I gave myself a whole lot of strain that didn't need to happen. And in fact, the true reality of the situation was way different than what I had thought. And so how many times do we work ourselves up into this frenzy thinking one thing, trying to avoid pain, when really the situation is actually a completely different thing. Sometimes we try to avoid pain, and the fear of the pain is much worse than the actual pain. The ideas in our mind we actually magnify much worse than the true reality. And so I'm digressing a bit and repeating myself, but just wanted to share that short story with you about worrying and allowing fear to be greater than the true reality. Just nailing home that point that the voice of fear is much larger than the person of fear. It sounds scarier than it is. It's just a bark, it's not a bite a lot of the time. So hey, moral of the story is don't shove stuff up your butt without double checking. Hey, bless you guys. I know that wasn't super profound, but maybe we'll catch you next week and we'll have some more stories for you. In fact, we certainly will. Hey, happy St. Paddy's. Catch you next time. The Zero to Hero Club is dedicated to inspire and change the lives of those dealing with hard circumstances. We aspire to see you live vibrantly and become the true hero you really are, so you can be that, overcome, and change the world. Come join the club at thezerotoheroclub.com. Let's write history